Okay, so JB, you want to tell us what your experience was after giving Bolt.new the feedback on the issues that you had?
Yeah, so good news, bad news, as seems to be how this always works. I had some struggles to get the latest version of the code running on my phone, and it behaved weirdly. I'm not exactly sure what all that's about, so I'm not sure how much like it. It loses a little bit of my trust, but it's not a deal
Right.
breaker yet. But I do think I'm running the most recent version of the code now, and the export seems to be working. There is a bit of weirdness. It seemed like I needed to actually do something like reload the app after I reinstalled it because the practice sessions were not showing up in the history than they were. And I'll be frank right now, that's happened enough times that I don't trust that yet.
Okay.
But I suppose worst case, what that tells me is if I record some practice sessions on the phone and they don't show up in the history, like if I stop Expo Go and restart it and let it restart the app, it might work. And at least because the data is persisting in local storage, I guess, it's not throwing the data away. It's just that, it shows up in the history, then it doesn't, then it does, then it doesn't, and I haven't figured out the pattern yet. Okay. Shit happens. That's how software works. But the export, at least the export summary worked the way I'm expecting it to. I press export, it gives me the share intent. I can choose my material files app and save the CSV file locally in my downloads folder and then open it with Google Sheets. And it does exactly what I'm expecting. That's perfect. I haven't looked at the other export behavior yet. I mean, it's not perfect. There's empty rows for no reason, but that's relatively easy to deal with. So export threatens to work. I'll play around with it to see if I find any edge cases where it doesn't work. Um, so that leaves me with a few things that still don't quite work right. The way that it's computing accuracy isn't quite right. That's just domain information that it guessed at that it didn't have. I need to correct it.
Yeah.
The export probably works, but I'd like to check that. I don't know if the export is helpful the way it is right now, but I think I can direct it to give me something that's a little bit more helpful. I don't like the idea of one throw per row. That's way too much information. And I certainly don't need every throw time stamped. It's funny, when I did this exercise with ChatGPT, that's the first thing it suggested was, here's an example of the domain model. And it showed me a JSON document, and each throw was its own object time stamped. I
Yeah.
presume that's where the timers come from. Now I'm sort of realizing that's probably what happened. So it's almost usable. And in fact, I would say that it is entirely usable in terms of like the very basics. I can record a session. I can I can save multiple sessions, and I can export them for analysis later. All that stuff works, as far as I can tell. I need to explore the export behavior to make sure that it's doing what I think it does. But assuming it does what I think it does based on the export summary feature, that's all good. I could, in principle, use this right now in a practice session. I would need to ignore the little analysis that it does on the screen, the accuracy and all that stuff. I would need to
Right.
ignore that part. But otherwise, it works. The only thing that this doesn't do, that my app does, the one that I wrote by hand, is I can't look at a previous session in the app. Like I can't press the one in the history and read it. That's a feature I didn't realize I needed until I started building it.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
that seems like an easy thing to ask Bolt to do.
Yeah.
So I think at this stage, I need to do a little bit more testing or exploring, same thing, to see if the export feature behaves the way I expect. If it does, then in principle, this is usable now.
Okay.
And then what I'd want to do is to collect my thoughts a little bit more on how I'd want to improve it. Like, don't show me the compute the accuracy information differently. Um, and one thing that came up when I built it by hand was, while I'm practicing, I don't necessarily want to see that information because that information is going to affect my ability to
Ah,
concentrate. Right?
okay.
So I want to hide that. In fact, that's one of the things that I added was a hide show button on that screen.
Yeah.
So again, seems like a reasonably easy thing to ask Bolt to do. Um, and We still have the UI problem. It's a little bit better. It added some padding. The buttons are slightly easier to press, but it's still making the mistake of not calculating where the bottom of the screen is correctly. So
Right.
I have no idea how to fix that. I don't know whether Bolt can fix it. I can ask it to and say,
Okay.
hey, I think you're not computing where the bottom of the screen is. Try differently. Or in the
Right.
worst case, hey, can you put like 50 pixels of empty
Yeah.
space at the bottom of the
Right.
screen? Like I
A
might now
total
have to put
hack.
programmer hat on
Yeah.
and go back to pixel twiddling to make it work. But for a relatively short period of time and relatively few prompts. I mean, it's been a lot more talking than it has been interacting with Bolt. Um, I'm I'm genuinely surprised, pleasantly, at how far we got. And this is a little bit more of the experience that I was kind of expecting, where it gets some domain things wrong because I haven't told it. It made some reasonable guesses. Some of them were right, some of them were wrong. It did some things that I didn't expect it to do, and some of them I liked and some of them I didn't. So, and that actually, that, like, I don't know how it is for other people out there, but for me, that kind of fits me well. Like, my personality is more, not personality, but I tend to think more along the lines of helping people improve their ideas rather than coming up with ideas myself. So, if we have a conversation and you're, asking for advice or for feedback, or if we're trying to do something together, it's easier for me if you come up with a draft and I make suggestions, because reading a draft triggers 23 ideas,
Yeah.
12 of which are helpful, 4 of which are important. But I struggle to do that if I sit down with a blank page.
Right.
And so this gives me a little bit of that experience, right? It gives me actually a lot of that experience. I tell it in vague terms what I want. It gives me a starting point. I say no, 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 yes, yes, yes. And then we can iterate a few times. So I'm curious, going farther. There's enough in here that I'm willing to go down this road a little bit more. Although now the thing that's going to be gnawing on me is this is React Native. I don't speak React Native. When I do need to step in, how deep a rabbit hole am I stepping into?
Okay.
But for now, like, superficially, it does what I need. I wish it did a couple things differently. There's a couple things I need it to do to make this in line with the app that I have now in terms of feature parity. But I suspect that's like 1 or 2 more sessions, and then literally I can say this replaces the app that I built by hand,
Yeah.
even with
So
some annoyances.
I can imagine things going wrong. For example, suppose you actually try to use this app while you're doing some practice sessions, for example, or you're
Yeah,
just testing it on your own with some dummy data. Um, and maybe it just like doesn't save your data or something.
right.
That,
Yeah, who
things like
knows
that,
how buggy it is inside? Yeah.
right? So I think
Well,
it,
yeah, and even just the, like, loading it into Expo Go twice without thinking I changed anything seemed to lead to
yeah,
2 different kinds of behavior. So that makes me nervous too.
yeah,
Um, but we haven't tried sort of the whole round trip of let's deploy the app. Like right now, this is running an app preview in
yes.
a customized runtime environment. Maybe it really does need to package the entire app, and that's what
Right.
I need to judge. But I'm worried that it's going to force me to put it in the app store, which I don't want to do.
No, no, I don't believe it'll force you to put it in the App Store. I'm quite confident of that.
I
I
hope
feel
not.
very confident of that.
I hope not.
I think the thing that really, I guess, I guess we'll see. So I guess the problem is, from my point of view, generally as a developer, the part that I hate is the QA part. And now it's
Yep.
making us do the QA part. It's actually like you're taking
Right.
away the fun part, the programming, and now I got to go and make sure that this is actually doing what I want
Well,
it to
and
do.
so that's where I think, I feel a little bit differently, because part of what it's taking away is the platform drudgery, which is the stuff that I don't care about.
That's
I
true.
would
Yeah.
I would rather get involved in the, like, understanding the domain problem. I
Mhm.
also really like, as I said before, I like sort of the incremental iterative nature of, I get to look at a draft and provide feedback, and that allows me to converge on what I want, which is an
Yeah.
experience that I usually don't have from this side. I'm usually on the other side of the table doing that, and I'm trying to provide drafts, and
Yes.
I'm trying to get them to say, no, that's not what I meant, but early enough for it to be helpful, instead of so late that all we can do is cry about it.
Right.
And that I like. And so the like trying to get the stuff to appear on the screen is cool when I don't know the UI framework. But once I know the UI framework, I'm not interested in making
It's
something appear on
not.
the screen. I just spend all my time screaming at it showing up in the wrong part of the screen. So I'm happy to let go of all of that. Like if Bolt were just my front end developer and I got to do the back end, I would probably be happy with that too.
Okay.
But I really like that it's doing the things that I think of as drudgery, which is nice.
Okay.
I'm just not sure how transparent it is when it comes time for me to actually tweak things.
Yeah.
How hard is that going to be? And part of it is I'm not a TypeScript person, so I don't know how much TypeScript I'm going to have to learn to really do this well. I know enough JavaScript to be dangerous, but I certainly am not comfortable with TypeScript. So every time I needed to put a type annotation, I'd probably be reading 5 pages of documentation. But like if all I had to do was write plain JavaScript, or if I could figure out how to rewrite the guts of this impure script, now that could be interesting. And just keep the React Native shell. I don't know.
And we haven't even tried suggesting to Bolt, like could you just rewrite this in JavaScript or
right.
something?
So that's an interesting idea to try next would be, hey, this is cool. I'm not sure I'm married to React Native. Can I see what it looks like in Android with Kotlin?
Yeah.
Or I suppose I could even ask it, hey, I need to change the way you calculate accuracy because it's not quite what I'm expecting. Can you show me where that is and guide me through changing it myself?
Yeah.
Like I'm almost now submitting a patch to it,
Yeah.
as opposed to it submitting patches to me, which is kind of an interesting way to think about it. So I think I'm on the whole, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's the experience has been closer to what I was hoping it would be, rather than what I was fearing it would be.
Okay, that's good.
Modulo the technology problems that we've had trying to install previews of the
Right.
app and that kind of thing. Modal dialogues not showing up on the Stack Blitz app preview.
But those things will happen to you as a developer as well. So
right.
I kind of feel like,
yes.
So I was very pleasantly surprised. Like I was expecting good things because I've had good experiences with ChatGPT, but I thought, okay, maybe it'll be just like a junk. But
right.
no, I'm very happy with it. I think it did a really good job, and I think now the proof of the pudding is, when you actually try to use this, will it just be crashing repeatedly or doing stuff?
It didn't seem to me like it would, but it might, and if it does, like if it did, I genuinely don't know what I don't want to spend my afternoons submitting bug reports to Bolt. That's totally uninteresting to me.
Right.
It's amusing, but like I don't want to live in the film Brazil. That's like the worst case scenario. I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
At that point, I would then say, maybe React Native and Android don't play together as well as I thought. Let me try an Android native platform and see what happens.
Okay.
And part of that could just be my utter ignorance about React Native. And part of that could be like when you have one of these multi-platform environments, even if it has a platform-specific, subset, like, okay, these are extensions. And when you really want to do something Android-y, you can open the trap door and fall into the Android native part of the technology. My experience with that kind of thing is usually it kind of sort of works. And there's lots of stuff that hasn't been implemented because nobody's got there yet. And I'm the one poor sap out of 1,000 who wants to do that stuff. That was my experience with Beware. I've had that experience with other of these sort of multi-platform environments before. Like I'm the poor sucker who wants to do the thing that nobody's built yet. I'm not looking to get a PhD in your platform and build it myself. I was kind of hoping you take care of that for me, and you didn't. Okay, I guess that just means I can't use you. That's why I'm not building version 0.4 of the app on Beware. And the only reason. Like, nothing wrong with Beware. It just doesn't do the thing that I care about.
So React Native and Expo Go are both fairly mature, I'd say, at this point. I mean, they definitely do have problems, but I think that doing exports and to file system and so on, that all should be,
Right. I mean, I kind of expected that to work. based on the idea that these are established platforms.
Yeah.
I'm actually genuinely more impressed that Bolt used it correctly,
Yeah. Yeah, me
which is
too.
nice. I mean, I guess there must just be enough examples of people doing that well. I am curious now, just taking the customer hat off and putting the programmer hat on for a while. I am, of course, also interested in exporting all this code
Yes.
and finding out on a scale of 1 to 5 how useful it is for a refactoring workshop. And I
Okay.
suspect that it's a 4. I'm guessing it's going to be very useful for a refactoring workshop. But again, I might be surprised. It might have found some examples of really nice, well-factored, well-designed, nicely layered code to copy to generate all this stuff. My guess is no, but I'm open to the possibility.
Okay. So it sounds like we have, we have sort of a plan for our next time. Is it basically in the meantime you're going to be trying out the app, testing it, running it through its paces,
Yeah, I
and then
think at the very least that. At the very least, I
yeah,
want to see if it's going to crash. And I suppose I don't think I'm ready to use it in a live practice only because of that visual feedback thing. I
the
think that
accuracy. Yeah.
that's the I think I'd like to hide that stuff, and all I want to see is the last few throws. Oh, and that reminds me, in order to use it in a live session, I need to undo and redo because
Undo and redo. Oh,
I found
yes,
that out
that's
the hard way because I might hit the wrong button.
okay.
And so I had both incidents happen where I pressed the wrong button and I put the wrong outcome in. And then I had
Okay.
another incident where I tried to hit the miss outcome, and that was right next to the undo outcome, and I accidentally undid a shot. And I
Uh,
couldn't remember what it was. So
okay.
that's where I think I like to literally use this in a real practice and be happy with it. I think I would need to hide the analysis while I'm entering in the throws and have undo redo. If we add those two things, I could literally use this in a practice and compare that experience to using the hand rolled app.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll look forward to trying that with you next time.
Absolutely, sounds good.